Hey, Mediocre Gamer fam, what's going on? It is I, Anthony Elliott. I'm here with my best friend in the world, AJ. AJ, it's stupid hot, isn't it?
It sure as shit is. It's we were just looking before we started recording here, and it's 101 here in Omaha, and it with humidity it feels like 112 out. So it's a little bit of a steamer. What's it looking like there in Alabama?
So here it's 97 with the humidity. It's at 30%, which is a blessing. It feels like 100 at 4 p.m. But apart from us actually boiling in our own sweat, how are you doing?
I'm a little under the weather. I think I'm getting tonsillitis.
Oh
The reason
gosh.
why I say that is I think my roommate has it. It's kind of a self-diagnosed kind of thing. We're like almost
Mhm.
positive that's what it is. I'm not gonna get into like all the symptoms, but it's matches all the symptoms. I don't need to get into all the gross details, but
I was gonna say.
yeah, my throat's feeling it. So it's I'm pretty sure I'm getting it. Anyways, that's besides that, I mean I'm doing fine. It's Monday. Getting through the day. It's hot as balls out.
So hot,
How are
dude.
you doing, Anthony?
Anthony's fine. I don't know why Anthony's referring to himself in the third person, but he's good. Just hot. It between it being super hot and then between you and I just both being very busy. Like I don't remember a summer being this busy ever in life.
No. And
This is weird.
I've been told always that, as you get like into adulthood, it gets busier and busier. It never really like slows down. I'm like, damn, I don't know how that's really possible, but I guess it's gonna happen.
Yeah, isn't that exciting? But besides us being busy, everywhere has been just kind of struggling, and it's been struggling so much that they stopped making movie tie-in games for movies because they don't make money allegedly, according to the team behind Furiosa. When they asked why is there not a Furiosa game like the Mad Max game?
Yeah, I feel like half the reason why we don't see him as much anymore is because it takes longer to make games. I feel like that's the
Yeah,
biggest reason. Because, back in like that era where it was like every flipping movie had a tie in game, like in the like early
every other movie.
2000s, it was used as more of like a marketing campaign, like an ad thing, because you could pretty much just copy and paste like 3D platformer mechanics from the fucking Ratatouille game and throw it in the Toy Story game. That doesn't make sense timeline wise, but let's pretend it does.
It doesn't have
Like,
to,
or
AJ.
like Lego, you could easily whip together Lego Star Wars, Indiana Jones, whatever. Like you can easily put those together. Today, it's a lot harder to do that. A lot more time
Yeah.
consuming, a lot more money. So I
I
get
mean,
it.
it's interesting though. Just like a quick little sidestep. If we
Mm-hmm.
look at Alan Wake 2, something like that, that game, like I think just became profitable like about a year and some change later. Like they just started making their money back on this game. Granted, that is a smaller studio, but even if we look at the Mad Max game specifically, it was made by Avalanche, the people that made Just Cause, and the game feels like a Just Cause game minus the grappling hook in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Sounds about right. That's really all you need from a Mad Max game, honestly. Like that's the the movement and like the vehicles move just fine and just cuz I mean it's nothing to write home about, but I
Mm-mm.
it works. It's completely serviceable. I mean, I guess it could be a tweaked a bit better for Mad Max, but like because I mean it's mainly cars there, but still like it's not that big of a deal. And the explosions they had on lock, the map design and the size they had on lock, like extravagant missions and stuff. Yeah, like I think that was a great studio to go with.
Yeah, and I hate that we didn't get a Furiosa one because it just would have been Mad Max 2, Apocalyptic Boogaloo, and it makes me sad. But it does make me want to talk about other movie tie-in games.
Mm-hmm.
And AJ has concocted this beautiful list we have here. There's one. This is a really random place to start. I am so
Yeah,
sorry,
no, go for it.
but there is one game that is not on this list, and that is the Batman Begins game that nobody talks about.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't expect you to start there. Okay.
I mean, because it's weird. Because looking at the Batman Begins game, it's like, oh, they tried to make Batman Arkham games before Batman Arkham. Like, it doesn't. It's not
Okay.
1 to 1. But I mean, if Batman Arkham had to run on a GameCube, it would probably look like the Batman Begins game.
Interesting. I need to look into those because when I constructed this list, there's quite a few games up here that I haven't played myself. I only had so much money, back when these games were made. or allowance or whatever it was, and I still just haven't gone back and played all these. So I mainly, between my own experiences and what other people online were saying, were like their top, like these underrated ones. That's kind of what I slapped together for the most part. And I guess not all of them are underrated. We have GoldenEye 007 on there.
I was going to say that game kind of speaks for itself.
Spider-Man 2. I mean, like that. Everyone raves about Spider-Man 2 was the Spider-Man game until like Insomniac really came around. I mean, there was
honestly Spider-Man Web of Shadows got real close.
Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man was also good. That was also really good.
So good.
But yeah, and I know. This is where I figured you were going to start. I know you're waiting to talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Okay, so boom, check it out. X-Men Origins Wolverine is possibly the most underrated game ever, because that game is damn near perfect. There's nothing to take away or add.
I never played it because I hated the movie. I was like, this movie's ass, and I'm sure the tie-in game's going to be ass, because like most tie-in games like this are ass. Like, it's just a button masher. But you have raved about it. And as I was doing this list, like, it was on the top of so many people's lists that I now have to try it. I'm going to be getting it.
Yeah,
I have to.
Well, because here's the thing. It has so little to do with the movie. They literally took, like, the plot points of the movie and was just like, let's just make it a video game. Like, there's the whole thing where you have to, like, fight the Blob, and it's, like a very interesting and intricate boss fight. And then there's a whole thing about how you, like, end up killing Deadpool in the game versus in the movie. But then, like, we all know how that works out. Mm-hmm. And then, like, there's this whole charge mechanic, and it's, like, tense. I remember there's this one section in particular where it's like you're in this underground base and it's under like these waterways. Long story short, the base starts collapsing, I think, and so it's like water rushing and you're like driving down these tunnels, and so as Wolverine you're like clawing, like jumping from one to the other and like killing the guys on one Jeep to jump to the next Jeep to try to beat it was so cool, dude.
That's sick. All right,
it was so cool. It has nothing to do with the movie, though.
I will buy it. Well, and that right there is the best news about it. It has nothing to do with that movie, because that movie was awful.
Wasn't good, but they tried really hard. But the game was so good it made you forget that the movie kind of sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Aladdin on Sega, I think it was the Mega Drive, I want to say. Maybe it was the Genesis. But
taking it back.
This game is raved about. It's a really good platformer. There's not too much to say. Just like it had no right being as good as it was for the time it was made.
They took Aladdin and made a 2D Prince of Persia game before they were cool again. Like that's all they did.
Yeah, that is really what they did. So yeah, I just wanted to give that a little shout out. I also want to shout out the SpongeBob movie video game. That was near and dear to me as a kid. My grandma had that, so it was played there. And that game is actually pretty good. I mean, it's no Battle for Bikini Bottom, but it's like a shorter, maybe not quite as quality Battle for Bikini Bottom. Like it might be the same engine. It might be the same engine. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, probably. I mean, just from a different perspective, yeah. Why would you not recycle the engine? I don't get why you wouldn't.
Yeah, it's like the same same console. I mean, you might as well. But anyways, yeah, that one was pretty neat. Peter Jackson's King Kong, never played it, but
okay,
by God, did people rave about it? Yep.
So weird, dude. Because the problem is it's weird. Like, and then a lot of these from like the early 2000s, right around like right before 2008, all that. They kind of just took the license and they actually had a lot of the actors from the movie voice acting the games, which I'm sure was also very expensive. But yeah, they just kind of just did whatever. I don't know why you shoot at things on the island when that has nothing to do with the thing. And then like the dinosaur fights are cool. It's like a first person shooter for like a bit of it. It's a weird game, but it's so cool.
Yeah, what I saw a lot of people like and also dislike at the same time was like the parts where you're the human were really tough. The raptors apparently were a bitch, and so they would have you like go through a really tough level, and then the next one you'd be Kong, and you would just be ripping all these people that used to give you problems apart, and like you like that was so satisfying after you struggled through a level, and now you just cook through all those same enemies, just destroying them.
That could be a fun gameplay loop. Ooh, never mind. I was gonna be like Sonic Unleashed 2, but like it's first person like Sonic without the speed, and so he's just like and then you get to the werewolf Sonic, you just start ripping people in half.
That sounds tough. I'm
not gonna lie. Like I like it, but only because it's so stupid. Like that, it sounds like the Souls like nobody asked for.
I think it actually need to be the reverse, where you like start as the werehog. You hate you have to fight all these guys, struggle, and then Sonic can just
Oh
boost
yeah.
right through them, kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Okay, listen, that could be fun. Sonic Unleashed 2, like I don't know, you go to Germany. Wasn't it in Italy last time?
It was the whole world.
Oh, it was the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's been a while since I played Sonic Unleashed, but yeah, no, I don't know. Start us in Germany and then work our way back to Paris. I don't know. Just go around the world.
Fuck it, we're going around the solar system. We're going to each planet.
There we go. There we go. Werewolves on Saturn confirmed, baby. Team Sonic, get with me.
Star Wars Episode 3 was really, really good. Like, not like really, really good, but like the combat, surprisingly good. They had a bunch of deleted scenes from the movie in there too, which is cool. Don't got a whole lot else to say.
I mean, it's one of those weird meta moments where like gaming is able to just kind of be like, "Hey, we're entertainment too." And this was back when that was a debate. Then The Last of Us came and shut all that down. Like there was no debate after The Last of Us. But before that, it was just like, "Oh yeah, you're not going to use this in this movie? Let's put it in this game because gaming was niche."
Yeah.
AJ, can you remember a time when gaming was niche, dude?
Yeah, it wasn't like this mainstream, like essentially another form of like regular media. It was just like, here's where like the comic nerds go to do their thing that isn't whatever they do, their cave dwelling stuff. But no, now it's
And now
like,
Matthew McConaughey announces games at Game Awards.
yep, that's sure interesting. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I think that's a really cool game. That's a cool game.
It is. That game doesn't get talked about enough. That is, and for those of us who haven't played it, it's a beat 'em up in an 8-bit style that is mostly based on the comics and not really so much the movie. It references the movie a bunch because a lot of stuff happens in the movie, happens in the game, and the art style of the comic. It's a cool experience and a cool kind of melding of worlds. And if you've seen the movie, it all makes perfect sense. Where it's just like, oh yeah, this is actually a little bit more fun than the movie, and I love the movie personally.
Yeah, no, they're both great. So I think that's a really cool game.
Definitely.
I have nothing to say really about the next two. Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay. I just saw those mentioned a lot as great games. I didn't know if you played them, but
I hadn't played
got
Lord of the
nothing.
Rings, The Two Towers. However, Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, I had cousins. Wasn't that on the original Xbox?
I think
Riddick?
so. I believe so.
Yeah, I had cousins that were obsessed with Riddick like when it was new, and so they were like, "Dog, you don't understand. This is really dope." It's I'm trying to think of like a great kind of comparison to it to. It would be like it's like a vampire game basically because the goal is to like it's first person. The goal is to stick to shadows and kill people. That's kind of the goal.
Kind of like a Dishonored.
Sort of, except a lot less magical, a lot more sci-fi, and a lot harder.
Okay, with the screenshots I was seeing kind of gave me Far Cry vibes, but Far
Yeah,
Cry isn't
similar.
quite as stealth, so maybe like a mix of the two. I don't know.
It's like Splinter Cell, like one of the later ones when
Okay.
stealth wasn't so heavy, but
Okay.
like in first person on a weird sci-fi rock.
Yep.
It's closer to that.
So really, a lot of the rest of the IPs we're gonna mention are just general IPs because they have just so many games underneath them, right? I mean, like Star Trek has tons, Star Wars has tons. I mean, there's just like too many to count, too many to go through. And there's of course there's the spin-off games which we've already talked about previously. Please go check that episode out. Link is in the description.
Check it out.
Where you had like Star Wars Force Unleashed and things like that where they we really split off, but we did some really cool ideas. There are way more Top Gun games than I ever realized. Like the
Yeah, I need
NES
you to
and
get with the
SNES
times,
were
homie.
spoiled with Top Gun games. Like, I knew there was like a few, but I didn't realize just how many. They're
Yeah,
still
you said like
making
close to
this day.
20, right?
It was, I don't know if it was exactly 20. I was just going through the Wikipedia list.
'Cause, like the whole thing is like Top Gun is huge. Like even though there aren't that many movies, Top Gun, especially at the time, was like this was like Tom Cruise when he was pretty. Like this is a lot going on.
Yeah, so there's, let's see here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 games. And that's not even including
Okay,
the canceled
baby.
games.
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
So
Ooh, speaking of canceled games, canceled movie tie-in games. First of all, that is an insane amount of Top Gun games.
There's only
Period.
two
Like,
movies, and the second movie just came out. Like, I mean, they're good movies, but dear Lord,
yeah,
guys, they're not like the Almighty Lord our Savior.
I don't think you understand how big like American love was like in the 90s. Top Gun was the
Mm-hmm.
reason that we let Tom Cruise be a strange man sometimes, okay? Like Top Gun is the reason why we're just like, yeah, but he made Top Gun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Speaking of canceled movie tie-in games, I think we've had this conversation before. Ooh, my computer is telling me that it's very hot weather. Thank you so much. Um, uh, I think I've told you this before, but Shadow of Mordor was supposed to be a Batman game. Ever told you this?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So what happened was Monolith, they were gonna make like a Christian Bale Nolan verse kind of Batman
Mm-hmm.
game. And so that's why they developed the Nemesis system and like there's some stealth mechanics in Shadow of Mordor that rolled over from the Batman game. And that's why you parkour in this weird medieval place because in a perfect world it would be Batman,
It makes
right?
sense. Okay.
And so, long story short, I think Christopher Nolan was on board with it. There's footage on the internet now. There was like a really good like working prototype in the works and floating around. It's just WB was like, "Hey, listen, we already have Batman Arkham going." This was back when Asylum I think just came out and it was a huge hit and they were like,
Mm-hmm.
"We can't have two competing Batman games, dude. What's the point?" And to an extent I see what they're saying, and so that's why I went to the Lord of the Rings, and now they're working on a Wonder Woman game that they swear is in development. We haven't heard Jack Rabbit on for like 7 years, but
Uh, it's gonna be some
yeah,
live service bullshit because that's what WB Games said they're focusing on now because
ooh,
Suicide Squad did so well.
okay. So Boomski. I think they're walking that back now.
I
Because
hope
Suicide
so.
Squad, yeah, I think they're walking that back now. I mean, all the calls are saying like, "Hey, this did underwhelming numbers," and we're like, "Oh, golly gee, the game that nobody asked for did numbers that you didn't want. Crazy." So yeah, so I think they're walking that back a little bit. I know they've canceled a bunch of projects, kind of internally behind the scenes. And allegedly, I cannot remember where I saw this. I want to say it was a tweet, but allegedly, Monolith Games isn't interested in making a live service situation. It's going to be closer to like a Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. But yeah, so I think that is going to be all right. And then WB still makes single player games, albeit not as many as they should. But I mean, what was
Yeah,
that? What was that? Hogwarts Legacy.
yeah,
Hogwarts
they just
Legacy
made that.
happened, and it was, it was the biggest game of the year when it came out.
Mm.
It didn't get nominated for any awards, which is so funny to me, but it made all the money.
It's just
Very
because it
fascinating.
had Hogwarts slapped on the name. It like if it if it was just a random wizarding game, I don't think it would have sold nearly as well. It was a gorgeous game. It
Definitely
was
not.
just extremely repetitive. Like the combat,
Yeah.
like that's the thing is there's no like combat types. There's no like real good way to mix it because it's all of it is spells from a distance, just firing on you. There is no like
Yeah.
close quarters really. Like
Which could have been
kinda.
fun. And then I don't know if there's a Hogwarts Legacy 2, like some close quarters wizardry would be kind of dope. And maybe we go into a city setting and maybe go back and forth between Hogwarts and the cities or
But I
something
want to
like
go
that.
somewhere
That
else
could be really
besides
cool.
Hogwarts. Show us a whole new area. I think that would be
Yeah.
cool. There's so many different
Yeah.
schools
Like,
that are talked about, and we never see
mhm.
them. I think let's go to a different school. Let's go somewhere completely different.
Ooh, that could be fun. Yeah. Ooh, American wizardry, baby. America, we're on the way, fool. Um, yeah, that could be really fun. I was gonna say something. I completely lost my train of thought. I guess next game. Can we talk about alien games? Can we
There's
is
a
that a thing we can
shit
do?
ton of them. So yeah,
Oh
pick
my
one.
gosh. Because I mean, let's talk about Alien Colonial Marines because that is the game that tried its best. And also
Yeah.
that's the one that tried its best, not the one where you have the alien that like actually listens to you and learns where you like to hide, so it like will find you. It will find you. There's no, and then you can. There's also a setting where you can turn on, I think, the microphone in your controller, and so like your actual audio affects what the thing hears, and so
Yeah.
like you like sneeze too hard, and this thing's you just hear and it's like, oh nah, dude. Yeah, no. Shout out Alien Colonial Marines because they really tried. They really had us going, and I think there should be more Alien games. I don't know if that's controversial.
Like I said in the state of play episode we had, I'll link that also down below. Um, the new Alien VR game looks really cool. And the fact that like
Mhm.
your actual real life movement will trigger it, noises will like in that game you mentioned will trigger it. Like, what a perfect idea for a horror game where you're like legitimately peeking around a corner and it like turns and sees you. Like,
Yeah, no, that's terrifying. That's
that's
objectively
sick.
terrifying.
That's
Yeah.
sick.
Ooh, okay. I have like a weird dream movie game that will never happen,
Mm-hmm.
isn't gonna happen. But Mr. and Mrs. Smith the game, I don't know why that doesn't
Ooh,
exist.
that would be sick. That'd be really
Yeah,
cool.
dog.
You can have it
Have you
swapping
seen
between the two different people, like the Mr. and Mrs. and like trying to sneak around each other and like get intel and like yeah, that could be really cool.
Yeah, have you seen the show on Amazon Prime, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith show?
I need to. It's on my list. I have
So
heard
it's
it's
okay.
good. I've heard it's good.
AJ, we're busy people. I've seen it. It's very interesting because obviously you watch the first movie and it's like, oh
It's
yeah,
different. I
okay,
know
cool.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's an action rom-com thing
Yep.
when like Brad and Angelina were like actually dating before they got married. It was a whole moment in
Mm-hmm.
time. But this one is like, literally just espionage. They just go places and they spy on people. And then there are like interesting decisions where it's like our mission is to spy on them, get this information, leave. But then this person is in trouble and someone's getting kidnapped. What do you do? Your mission is done. What do you help? You no, the
Mm-hmm.
mission doesn't say help, but you can help this person if you want to. And it's
Yeah.
like it's really interesting in that way. And it's like, oh man, should I do it? I think I gotta be a good person and help. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that could be a dope game.
Well, like because the idea of spies, just because they're U.S. spies, that doesn't mean they're good people.
No, no, no,
In
no,
fact,
no.
a lot of times, I bet most real life ones would say, "Fuck that! I'm going home. My job's done." I'm
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, I'm positive. Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and then you got to think as a spy, your job is to risk dying. So it's like, oh, you can go home. It's like you bet, Bubba. I got you, fam.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you know,
Oh, and more, above all else, don't get like caught. Don't get found out. Like
hmm
stay discreet. So going out and helping in a situation is kind of like the best way to get
running a real risk
caught.
is running a serious risk.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
oh man, that remind. Okay, side note. Do you remember the game Alpha Protocol?
Yes.
That's the game right there.
Yeah.
You can switch between guy, girl, go back and forth, and then like
Mm-hmm.
you can like make them argue and like kind of like pick a side. So like let's say the objective says to do A, B, and C, but you do A, B, D, and C. Then it's like, hey, you did extra. That's not necessary. Or like you could like
Mm-hmm.
be a slacker and like mess up the thing, and now we have to like I don't know fight the
Figure out.
Taiwanese government. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, actually, that's a really cool idea where you could have almost like how they did the butterfly effect from oh, what's it called? They're coming out with the remake Until Dawn,
Yes,
but
yes,
with
yes,
like a
yes.
spy kind of like game where if you mess up,
Yeah.
like the mission doesn't restart unless you like, died or something. Like, no,
Right.
it continues, but now with the fallout of what you just did. You have like a butterfly
Yeah.
effect and different stuff there. That would be cool.
That would be like super cool, and then you got to deal with it in like an Alpha Protocol setting. Alpha Protocol was real weird. There he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the words. Weird because it feels like it's based on a movie, but it's not. It's just stuff happening.
Yeah, it really is. Um, I am gonna move on here. I'm gonna skip down a little bit to Pixar and
Ooh,
DreamWorks games.
okay.
These games are surprisingly like pretty well to go back to. A lot of them, like they don't feel too bad
Yeah.
because a lot of it was just a copy and paste. They made decent enough 3D platforming mechanics and copied and pasted it from game to game with just different objectives, different scenery, different whatever. But they all felt the same for the most part. I mean, unless
They
you're
did.
you're playing Toy Story versus Cars. Okay, Cars is gonna be its own thing, but but even
Ours
Cars,
was like insanely good.
well, it
Like the
had no
driving, the
right being as
handling.
good as it is.
God,
Yeah, I mean, it's not
so good.
realistic. It's not a simulator, but it's not
It's
what it's
so
meant to be.
fun.
That's not what it's meant to be. Yeah, it's
Right.
just goofy fun. Like these games still feel good to this day to go back to, and I think it's because they copy and pasted. It's why I wish Disney Infinity did better than it did, because I think that could have been such
Yeah.
a good platform for them to
Oh yeah.
essentially drop these movie-like games for cheaper because you just buy the character and come with the campaign and the map pack and all that. I think that would have been a really cool way to have it where it's all the same mechanics. It all feels the same, but it all feels good and polished. I wish they polished it better than they did.
100%. I'm a push back just a hair,
Yeah.
just a hair, because here's the thing: they did all feel the same on like the Wii, the GameCubes of the world, the Xboxes, blah blah blah. But fam, some of those Disney games on like the DS are
Oh,
impressively intricate, like
yeah.
impressively. Like the puzzles were like really cool and interesting. Like 9 times out of 10, it was like fascinating to see like, okay, this is the game on GameCube. Oh man, I remember I had GameFly. You remember
Oh,
GameFly?
yeah.
GameFly's still around, but
It
dog,
is
like,
crazy.
oh man. I mean, no, they just sell you game keys. Relax, dude. But yeah, man, like I would get, let's say, Ratatouille on like GameCube or Wii, whatever it was, and then I played the same one on like the DS. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like I remember the Meet the Robinsons game on DS was like
Mm-hmm.
so cool because it's about like I forget what's his name. It's about you going back to the past to actually get the main character of the movie. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not even like really like a tie-in exactly, but it explains the journey
Yeah.
and how you got there, and it's so
So a
cool.
lot of these like kids tie-in games, especially on the handheld versions, would almost like
Mhm.
continue the story after it ended. I remember I had Over the Hedge, and that continued. It did like the last, like the final climax, and then it just
Mhm.
continued the story after. I had an Incredibles game, and it literally started with the Underminers shooting out of
And the
the
minor,
ground. Like
it was
it
so
was
good.
like, so like there was tons of those where they had like really cool ideas where obviously they're not canon, but like it was fun as a kid to like, oh, so this is what happens next. And as a kid, I was like, yeah, this is what happened. Like, no, nothing will change my mind.
I will say I think that the Incredibles game is canon. They don't mention it in the second movie, but I do think the Incredibles game is canon. I thought because this how
Maybe.
the Underminer got defeated. Which, first of all, the Incredibles game on GameCube, dude, insanity.
Uh huh.
It's wild. But something else interesting: the Incredibles game on the Game Boy is just the movie, but with different levels, which is also very interesting. But yeah.
Yeah. It's and that's one thing with a lot of these movie tie-in games. They come out in so many platforms because it was really cheap. Because back then, you had a PS2, which is the biggest selling console ever. You had the GameCube. Well, shit, might
Mhm.
as well throw it on there. You had the Wii, which was massive, of course, and you already make it for PS2. Might as well make it on the Wii. Well, PS3 and Xbox 360 were also out. Well, shit, might as well throw it on those two. Those are the current consoles of the time. Well, it also works on the original Xbox at that point. Well, shit, might as well throw it on that. And you gotta have a Game Boy and DS version just so kids could. But
You
like, it's
do.
just like you had so many
Oh, and the
versions. But
when the PSP was popping,
the
dude.
PSP
Oh
too, like,
man.
but so when you like sit back and look at it though, like it makes sense because like the PSP could run some PS2 games if it was like more of a simple
Yeah.
one. So like they really only had to make a new version of the game mainly for a DS and Game Boy. Otherwise, it's pretty much copy and paste across all those consoles. You can't do that now. There's no way. But because the Wii was so weak, it still made sense to make it for that PS2 and GameCube for so long.
Oh snap. Okay. And we're kind of cutting it for time. I know you're not
Mm,
feeling the greatest, but do you think that with Nintendo kind of stepping its foray into like the PlayStation 4, again, the Metroid Prime 4 trailer is insane,
yep.
coming from Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It just is.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you think that now that it's going to be more uniform as far as power, that like we're going to see something like, okay, you know what? Maybe it'll make, and obviously we're probably not going to get these huge AAA movie tie-in games anymore. I'm looking at you, Mad Max, in the back. Oh my God, that game is so good. But do you think we're going to get some more experiences kind of tailored more so for just kind of like a general one size fits all type thing? I mean, we're seeing
I
it with Power World.
I think we're getting that anyways because I'm seeing a resurgence of AA games because
Mm-hmm.
AAA, as we were talking at the beginning, like it's so expensive to make games. So AAA is really only good to aim for if you're this big studio. If you're not, it's not worth the money. You're more than likely not gonna. I mean, look at Remedy. They're not small, but they're
Mm-hmm.
also not big, and it's taken them
No.
forever to recoup their expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
And the
not
game
really.
sold very well.
It
That's
did.
important
It,
to
it wasn't.
note.
It
Alan
was
Wake
a
2 sold
success.
incredibly well.
Yes. So like it just wasn't like a runaway success, but no one. It's Alan Wake. Like no, it's not going to a horror
Also,
slash
Alan Wake 2 is
thriller
just a different.
is just never going to be a runaway success. Like
Unless your name is Resident Evil 4 remake.
yeah, yeah.
That's the only exception
Granted,
to
that
that
has
rule.
like history behind it. You know, that has a
Yeah,
cult
same with Dead Space.
following. Yeah, yes. But anyways, yeah, it's. I think that's the biggest reason why, and so I think with the Switch 2 becoming a tolerable power level with everything else, I think it's possible to see it really. What I want to see next from the game industry, and it'd bring this back, I'm gonna tie it back here, is being like, instead of focusing on more power, because again we're kind of plateauing on how beneficial it really is. I mean, we still have room to grow, but it's becoming marginal, right? I want to see them more focus on making games easier to make, so that way we can get them out quicker and on less of a budget. It'll incentivize developers and studios to make more single player and couch co-op games and things like that, because that one sale can happen. Because before, they could make a new game every year. It wasn't too hard. You could, it didn't take so long. But now it's like, well, shoot, we drop a game and now it takes 7 more years for us to make another. Like, that's 7 years without true high profits. So from a company standpoint, that looks bad.
Quick thing. Have you been keeping up with some of the Unreal Engine stuff that's been getting announced, fam?
Oh yeah, Unreal Engine's getting crazy, dude.
Like, yeah. Shout out, I think it was the Lucid vehicle kind of demo that they did where like it's driving on like a trail or whatever. And it like cut out all the I don't want to say AI generated because that's not really what it is, but the procedurally generated like section of the level. And literally they just made a path and like threw some foliage in there, and the engine was like, "Oh, got you, fam," and it just did it.
Yeah, just made like a randomly generated path that didn't look too bad. Like,
So
just...
I think it like was mostly like auxiliary stuff, so like the mountains and the trees in the background, stuff you didn't really interact with, but it was still just like it just did it. Or like for example, this Marvel game, which I don't know if it's gonna be good because it looks good, but we have not seen any gameplay. It's got a really strong team behind it, but the fact they've announced it and they've done so much about the technology and not the gameplay makes me nervous. But we have to see the gameplay. But long story short. If you watch that presentation, it was really cool. Like literally they would, for example, show a light in the snow in like World War I Germany. Okay, cool. Light in the snow. And then it's like, okay, cool. This is the light. And now this is the light without snow. And it just took the snow off. It didn't need to swap models. It didn't need to do anything. It took the snow off. And now it was just a light.
Legitimately natively there.
And it's like, what? Like, huh? And then there are a couple other games doing some really impressive stuff. There's one game doing something really cool with temperature where like you could literally, if you so desired, you have magical, warm, hot, cold, hot powers. You could literally just freeze the whole map if you just wanted to. If you had enough energy to do it, you could freeze it. Or you could burn everything down. You could if you just wanted to.
Yeah.
And it's all natively there and things freeze and it's weird. Unreal, I think, is going to be the future.
I agree. It's been the top, I feel like, for a little bit now. There's something new I saw. It came out with water. Like where it's like as close to genuine water physics as we've ever had, where like water will legitimately drain unless you put like an infinite source, and it like flows properly. It'll push things properly. Things will get caught how they would in real life. They have different buoyancies. Like, it looks crazy.
For sure. And then the only thing that makes me nervous about Unreal Engine, because literally it's if I were making games right now, it would be the engine I would look at for a lot of projects. But the only thing is there's not like another one. I mean, we had Unity, but Unity decided to be weird. So, I mean, the only thing that makes me nervous is that there isn't competition. But maybe, just maybe, with things like Unreal Engine and the new Switch that is coming, and it hasn't been announced yet, but like it has been. Remember when they said it didn't exist? That's so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo does all the time though. We're like, oh no, this thing that leaked doesn't exist, and then like a few months later, they're like, yeah, here it is.
It's fine. Nintendo has been doing it for years. We just accept it. But yeah, no, I hope that there's more competition. I hope that, let's see, maybe not Unreal, but maybe Rockstar just like, okay, cool, Rage 3.0, go. Like, here, just give us
Yeah.
royalties when it sells X amount. And the Rage engine, I mean, the source code already leaked. Rockstar, you're not losing any money. People will play your game if the engine is in other games. I promise you.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, or like if Remedy did it with the Northlight. There we go. I'm moving fast. That's the engine Alan Wake 2 is running on,
Yeah.
and it looks gorgeous. Um, Capcom with the RE engine. I mean, I could see it. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Capcom probably not. Remedy maybe, but yeah, no. Or
Shoot,
Dice with the Frostbite engine.
even you could even do Sega with their Hedgehog engine just because it's a momentum based engine. I know like the Sonic games have been fantastic, but it's a momentum based engine where you can adjust the sliders for momentum. So like
Hmm.
certain games like the new Jet Set Radio that's coming out, that'd be great for that. Or like any like racing kind of games, like momentum based movement is kind of a big deal.
We've talked about this anime, and it's not really a movie, but it could be. Give me an IG PX game in the
Oh
Sonic
yeah,
engine,
that
a
would be
racing droid game.
that'd be
Dude, that'd be
sick.
dope. And get on the track, and then you like do the fights and stuff. That would be insane. Could
That'd be
you
super sick.
imagine? That would be insane. It would print money. Sega, hey, but just do that. Just do that. You don't have to make another Sonic game for another decade if this sells well. I guarantee you. Anyway, um,
Yeah, I think that's about all we had to talk about today. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we start signing off?
um, not really. Just that the usual stuff. We love you. We think about you all the time. It's great to see you. Great to converse with the family. AJ, you look like you feel better already, dude. Look at you. You might not even
Hey,
be sick.
we're addressing the fam. Gotta perk up a bit.
Just a little bit, not to talk about the movie tie-in games. Oh, shout out to ET on Atari, just because why not? That game sucked, and it's part of the reason why the '80s were terrible for games. Um, but yes, we love you. We think about you. Like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends, or don't. I completely understand. Um, but yeah, oh, AJ, our sponsor, Freshly Squeezed, dog, plug it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. As always, guys, check out Freshly Squeezed. It'll be in the description below. It's my apparel brand for those of you that don't know. So please check it out. If you have money burn a hole in your pocket, I'd appreciate the support. But besides that, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're still here, that's awesome. Thank you so much for the support. You guys are amazing. You're why we do this. We do post videos for those of you who don't know every Monday at 7 a.m. So tune in then. And without further ado, I hope you guys stay mediocre.